Oh, Sony. Oh. Alright, let's just get through this as quickly as possible. Hopefully. Really.
Why aren't you scared of me? Why do you care for me?
Your future was almost so different.
Where do we go?
If you want to live, you have to trust me. Get ready. Now!
You're showing off.
Maybe a little.
Madam Web. Oh dear lord. Madam Web is directed by S.J. Clarkson and written by a bunch of writers that it would take a long time, you guys. So honestly, I'm just going to spare your trouble with this. So the film stars Dakota Johnson, Sweeney, Isabela Merced, Cecily O'Connor, Rahim, Mike Epps, Emma Roberts, and M. Scott. According to IMDb's plot synopsis, Cassandra Webb is a New York metropolis paramedic who begins to demonstrate signs of clairvoyance. Forced to challenge revelations about her former, she needs to safeguard three young women from a deadly adversary who wants them destroyed. And yeah, that's pretty much the plot of this this movie. Wow. Look, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. Sony just has, I think, like some of the worst track record I've ever seen for Spider-Man properties as a whole. On the one hand, you got the Tobey Maguire movies. If people enjoy the Andrew Garfield films, which I don't hate them, but I'm also just not a huge fan of just the take of Spider-Man and the marketing behind it. And I've enjoyed the Tom Holland stuff. But pretty much on their own, like the Sony Spider-Verse films, whether it be Venom, Morbius, and now Madam Web. As much as I know Venom has had great success with them in terms of critical, but really coming down to really just both Morbius and Madam Web, I would say that it has the worst track record when it comes to this Spider-Man cinematic universe. The Venom films are successful enough, but all Sony's universe films have garnered bad reviews across the board. At the very least, they have been just mediocre to just bad. Okay? Let's be honest with ourselves. I mean, I do enjoy Venom Let There Be Carnage, and I'll probably make a review on that at some point, as well as the other Spider-Verse films. It's really the only decent one because I found Venom and Morbius to just be terrible after rewatching Venom in preparation for Let There Be Carnage. I just started to realize, oh wow, this movie's actually not that good. You know, Morbius, man, being the worst. We all remember that. Now, Man Web, I gotta be honest with you guys. I congratulate you, Sony. I really congratulate you. Really. For making a movie that's worse than Morbius. I mean, that's impressive. I don't know how that's even possible to do, but you managed to make a worse film than Morbius. How is that even possible? If you thought Morbius was bad, people, you have not seen anything, okay? You have not seen bad until you watch this movie. Alright? It's just a whole new other level. This movie not just really shows that Sony doesn't care about the source material of like Man Web or any of the other Spider-Man characters, but it just shows how much that they are making films for just two reasons. Two reasons, you guys. Money and to retain the rights to Spider-Man. Those are the only two reasons why I can say that they are making these movies. 100% I really do. I'm just going to be upfront with you guys. There are no positives I'm going to give in this review, like none whatsoever. It was almost at the point of like I wanted to give like a petty positive, but honestly at this point I'm like, you know what? Nah, this movie doesn't deserve it. It really doesn't. But so for me, let's just go straight into the negatives, you guys. Let's just jump into this shit show as a whole. The performances, they're terrible. They're awful. As much as I know that these actors are really trying, and I guarantee you they are talented actors as a whole, they never shine at all. I mean, Dakota Johnson as the titular Madam Web, she is very bland throughout this entire movie. I mean, that face that she makes throughout this film, that's it. That's her one emote. That is all you get out of Dakota Johnson, because otherwise she just looks very disinterested as well as just confused. Okay, I really do believe that she really thought that she was going to be part of the MCU, when it's almost like some of these actors just don't realize, like, oh no, I'm not part of the MCU, I'm part of something else that's, I guess, somewhat part of the they always feel like they are going to be part of it, but they're not. Let's be honest, they're not. They're never going to be. As for the 3 Spire women, they don't fare any better. They do not. Sydney Sweeney as Julia Cornwall, which before this movie that she's based off of course, Julia Carpenter from the comics, but the problem is they now changed her last name, which I don't understand, but okay. She also seems confused, and she's very hollow. Again, like I said with Dakota Johnson, that face that Sydney Sweeney makes as well, that is her throughout the rest of the movie. She really delivers her lines very hollow throughout. She really just doesn't do well with what this material she was given. Okay, none whatsoever. Isabela Merced as Anya Corazon never stands out from the actors. She never does at all. She just kind of comes off as kind of being forgettable, which is kind of sad, because I do think that for her, I mean, if you see her in something like Sicario de los Soldados, she can do really well if it's a good movie. But unfortunately, this isn't a good movie. This is a really bad movie. And with this material, she doesn't fare better either. Alright, she really does not. As for Celeste O'Connor as May Franklin, I think they come off trying too hard at being snobby and rude at the same time. You know, they're supposed to be a snobby and rude teenager as a whole, and I do think that they're trying way too hard to convey that, or at the same time not putting enough effort as a whole. And again, I'm not here to really bash these actors, although I have to deduct how their performances are as a whole. As for the group dynamic between all 4 of the actors, it's hardly there. Really, it's not. They have no chemistry with each other by the end of the movie, and their friendship really just doesn't feel earned. You just don't feel like they've grown and bonded in this film, because they don't. They really do not feel like an actual group dynamic. They just feel like still random strangers, just hanging out with each other. That's it. That's all they are. I'm hoping at the very least, maybe the villain will stand out. Maybe the villain will at least be intriguing to watch. Unfortunately, Tahar Rahim as Ezekiel Sims is another bad villain in that he's boring. Dude, he is really boring in this film. Rahim seems to have a hard time figuring out what this character is supposed to be. That he comes off as being not terrifying at all. Like, there's no point where I felt threatened or I feel scared that these women are being attacked by this adversary, you know, by Ezekiel Sims. I never once bought that. He just comes off as just being just a guy with a motivation that is just there. That's it. That's all you get out of him. Emma Roberts as Mary Parker, who is Uncle Ben's sister-in-law and mother of course, Spider-Man himself. Peter Parker is so insignificant to the story that I question her addition to the film. I really do. I don't understand why she's in it, but I mean, of course, I know why, but really, there's no point as to why her character is there. And I'll say this, although Adam Scott as Ben Parker isn't inherently, like, terrible, like, he is actually trying to be entertaining, and I give him the benefit of the doubt. He is at least a little bit entertaining. Just like Emma Roberts, he seems so insignificant to the story. Like, what is their point? What is their involvement in this film? At all. What do they add to this film that adds so much depth to it? Because there's none at all. I said this, the only reason why they're in this film for one reason and one reason only is to be connected to Spider-Man. That's it. That's all there is. It's just so that way they're like, hey, we have something to connect to Spider-Man, which is just these 2 characters. That's it. That's all they got going for it. The direction is awful. S.J. Clarkson's direction seems kind of unfocused and sloppy throughout, and I do think that the film's tone and style is all over the place, that it conflicts with itself. And though this is Clarkson's film, okay, I know that this is her film, and I know that maybe everything was fine. Everything may have gone the way it was supposed to. In that case, then I do think she deserves criticism. But at the same time, I can't 100% fault her because I feel like this was made by a committee, like direction-wise. Like, I remember reviewing Pinocchio, Disney's live-action Pinocchio, and that didn't feel like Robert Zemeckis. That film felt like it was made by a committee. This film, same deal. I don't feel like that this was actually a director having a voice. This just feels like this was a committee that came in half the time and just derailed this film with regards to how it came off being. I never once got this feeling like this director had a voice. This just felt like Sony came in and they just jumbled this entire movie. Now, like I said, could not be true, but for now, I can't 100% fault her as a whole because it lacks personality. I just don't believe that this is 100% what Clarkson had in mind, but like I said, no. The visual effects are horrible. They're terrible. Most of the effects in superhero movies, especially Marvel, can go from either spectacular or just downright awful. We've seen this, most recently with some of the more recent MCU movies. If you look at some of the past MCU movies, they look fantastic. Or in the case of Guardians of the Galaxy 3, can also still look fantastic. And then you get to other movies in the MCU as of Phase 4 and 5 that look like complete utter shit. Cough, cough, Ant-Man and the Lost Quantumania, cough, cough. After seeing this film, it makes like something like Ant-Man and the Lost Quantumania or even the Marvels look like they're Oscar-worthy effects in this film. They are just obvious and awful throughout. Like, they're just terrible. Terrible. As well as just poorly rendered that it's just laughable a lot of the times. Especially in the beginning, you notice that CGI like that. It is so blatantly obvious and so laughable that that's what they thought that it was. That looked good enough. That was good enough for what it was. The cinematography is also disoriented and just stilted. Sometimes the camera work will be jarring whenever Cassie uses her powers because of course she could see into the future. And whenever it's normal, it just feels stale. It just doesn't feel like the camera work shines. It just kind of feels like an average looking film that I feel like just doesn't feel like there was a voice behind that cinematography, like at all. But again, I don't know. There's just no excitement in the technical work with how this film looks. It kind of comes off as just being soulless. I think that the story is poorly done. I mean, making a movie about Madame Web and connecting her to the Spider-Man universe could work. Okay, in theory, it could work. I'm not writing off ideas of like characters within Spider-Man's pantheos, like his whole history and the whole multiverse stuff. Okay, fine, that could work. But since this is under Sony, it doesn't connect to Holland's Spider-Man universe at all. So, like the MCU, none of it. It doesn't. Nor does it connect to Venom or Morbius. Because at the very least, they're connected to each other. This is on its own different thing. Instead, what we get is a generic plot of Cassie having to protect 3 girls who one day become Spider-Women and who will defeat Ezekiel Sims. Now, I want you all to remember that what I just said here. Why does that plot sound familiar? Legit, why does that plot sound familiar? If you really think about it. Science fiction. A man is attempting to take away a life from somebody that will become important in the future because they will be a threat to them. Gee, I wonder why that sounds a lot familiar. Oh shit. That's right. It is pretty much a Terminator ripoff, except it can't be fun without getting jumbled with trying desperately to force in Spider-Man references. Because of course they have to. They have to force in Spider-Man references as a whole. Without having Spider-Man. Because again, they don't mention Peter Parker or Aunt May. They don't. Why? Because of course they're in the MCU, but they can't even mention them. Which to me is just utter bullshit. You telling me you have these rights and you can't even say the names? That is so lazy. So lazy. Also, there's no point of having characters like Uncle Ben and Mary Parker. Like I said, they are only there to remind audiences every time that Sony has the rights to Spider-Man. That is it. We get it, Sony. You have the Spider-Man rights. We understand. You don't need to constantly nudge us 100 times and says, hey, we put that in, we put that in, we put that in, we put that in. Yeah, we know you have Spider-Man rights. But doing it in a way that's like very showboaty rather than respectful in that regard. The pacing and runtime of this movie is just it's bad. It's clocked at like an hour and 54 minutes, which it feels like it. It also doesn't help that the film's pacing is just all over the place. The film just never settles or stops to have characters develop at all. The movie just keeps going. It just keeps going and going. It doesn't stop. So if you're wondering if they're ever going to develop anything, chuck that shit out the door, because you ain't gonna get it with this film. You are not gonna get it. If you're looking for this movie to have like a breezy pacing, no, don't be looking for that. Don't you dare. Don't you dare. The score is forgettable. Composer Johan Sodervis delivers a score that does not stand out in the genre at all. It just comes off as being bland and lazy. In fact, it's so lazy when one of the pieces of the music is just straight up from Insomniac's Spider-Man game. I'm not joking, guys. The 2018 Spider-Man music, people have been comparing how like one of the parts in Man Web's score is being compared to Insomniac's Spider-Man, and it clearly shows. I mean, it's just blatantly lazy, guys. It really is. It's really lazy. God damn. The character development. What character development? What are you looking for characters? All the characters in this film are just types. None of the characters stand out at all. 3 Spider-Women are just types. Julia is just the shy, pretty girl. And I'll give Sydney Sweeney this. She is a gorgeous woman. Gorgeous. But, like I said, that face that she makes, that's it. That's all you get. That's all you get out of her personality. Anya is just smart and level-headed. That's it. There's nothing else to it. And before anybody starts saying that, no, they had character model. No. They don't go any further, and by that point, you just don't care. And Maddie is the spoiled and bratty one. That's it. That's all these characters are, you guys. They're just types. That's all they are. Cassandra is the lonely deadpan woman, which, again, I mean, bless Dakota Johnson's heart. She's trying, but god damn it, she's not helping this movie at all with regards to that, or even when she was doing press for this film at all. While Ezekiel is just a boring and bland villain with no personality behind the character. Nothing. Nothing's going to stand out with him. Nothing at all. The editing is laughable, you guys. I mean, scenes would just quickly chopped up together, or would cut a scene just to keep the film going. Just keep going. No stopping. No stopping. But I want to know about... No. We're not talking about that crap. Just keep going. We keep going. We don't stop. Alright? Because the editing here is just laughable. It is just insane to me on how bad the editing can be. The writing is atrocious. This dialogue is some of the most cringiest and bland writing I've ever seen in a superhero movie. Yes, even beating Morbius in the more recent Marvel films, you guys, ever. Now, maybe earlier superhero movies are like that as well, but I'm telling you, as of right now, it is so cringy and just bland throughout. Half of the bad dialogue is given to Ezekiel, which comes off as being as stereotypical villain dialogue, which, by the way, his ADR is bad. Like, you get to a point in the film, the ADR is just terrible. Because you can clearly tell the way he's talking isn't how he's supposed to sound in the movie. It's almost like they dubbed his voice because he couldn't get it right, or it just didn't feel natural. But yet, it looks unnatural when they use ADR. And the rest is given to the women for the dialogue. And it's just cringy throughout, man. Like, some of this dialogue ain't helping them. So, guys, I'm just gonna go straight up. This is first on the channel, but not first for reviewers who follow me. This is Man Web. It gets a 0 out of 10. Like I said, I wanted to give it like a petty 1 out of 10, but I couldn't do it. You guys, like, the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, you know what, fuck you, movie. You don't deserve this. To me, this is an embarrassment for Sony. Really, it is. It just surprises me after Morbius bombed so badly twice. You would think they would learn, but no, they don't. I really think that after their 2 like Spider-Man Sony Universe films, which is Kraven coming up and Venom 3, and after Beyond the Spider-Verse, at this point, I want to look at Avi Arad, who owns the rights to Spider-Man, as well as Amy Pascal, and just look at them and be like, just get these rights up. Because you don't care. You don't care about what you're making. You're just making shit for the sake of, we just need to retain these rights. It baffles me on how you can just bungle up a IP like this. And one other thing before anybody starts commenting about this right here, right now, which is, I do feel like there was a review by Chris Stuckman, who I love to death. I love the man. I respect the hell out of this guy. He is the reason why I'm into filmmaking as a whole. And as much as I have my disagreements with the video that he made about Man Web, I think there is a bit of truth in that, in what he's saying, which is studios can interfere. I'm not saying it's 100% true, but I do feel like there was some interference here. I really do. I believe that. Because you don't tell me that this movie just comes out and somebody's like, oh yeah, that looks perfect. Like, no, there's no way. Because at the very least, there would be some effort and they would look at it and be like, well, there was actually a good amount of effort here, but I don't see that. I seriously think that Sony just came in and they're like, you know what, this looks fine. Even though it looks like shit, it looks fine. So yeah, guys, that is Man Web. Oh boy. Adam fucking Web. So I will have very soon Bob Marley's One Love review, and then I'm going to be doing Dune Part 1 before leading up to Dune Part 2. So yes, look forward to those reviews and other movie TV show reviews coming soon.